for the light to go on, correct? And the light is now on. Everyone ready?
Fire on the hole.
I'd like to call the Monday, March 1st, 2021 Oakwood City Council meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me with the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Liberty and justice for all. Lori, may I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Duncan,
Here.
Vice Mayor Byington,
Here.
Mr. Stevens,
Here.
Mrs. Hilton,
Here.
Mrs. Turbin.
Here.
And do we have a report on the minutes of our February 1st regular session and work session and our February 22 work session and executive session? Councilmember Hilton.
Yes, Your Honor, I've reviewed the minutes from all 4 of those meetings, and I found them to be correct and complete, and therefore I move that they be adopted as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So ordered. Members of City Council, honored guests, city staff, and citizens of Oakwood. Despite a worldwide pandemic, government-mandated shutdowns, school closings, social and political unrest, endless admonitions to wash your hands, wear masks, and social distance, the City of Oakwood has adapted and persevered. Accordingly, and on behalf of Oakwood City Council, it is my honor to proclaim that Oakwood continues to be the premier residential community in the Dayton region. The state of our city is Oakwood strong. We have this distinction because of our beautiful neighborhoods, our excellent public schools and library, unmatched city services, including public safety, public works, recreation and leisure, but most of all, because of our citizens. Community ambiance is the character and atmosphere of a place. All our traditions and community events were affected by the pandemic. 2020 will forever be defined as before March 8, 2020, and after March 8, 2020. Canceled or altered events included our new resident breakfast, Care Walk, That Day in May, the Tree City USA Awards program, Oakwood Community Center programs, weddings and blanket concerts at Smith Gardens, Oakwood High School graduation, the Ice Cream Social, the Family Fall Festival, and the Holiday of Lights. Restaurants and small businesses closed, and the Oakwood Life magazine that started in 2011 is no longer published. Even the Oakwood Register ceased publications for about 10 weeks. Nonetheless, our city adapted and persevered. We displayed American flags on Far Hills Avenue as a sign of unity. City Council proclaimed the Oakwood Neighborly Salute, where citizens would greet their neighbors each evening at 6 p.m. during the shutdown. We adapted and created new traditions, including a motorcade parade honoring the 2020 Oakwood High School senior class, along with pictures of our graduating seniors on Schaefer Boulevard. We also organized drive-by events for our popular Ice Cream Social and the Holiday of Lights. While I believe all business is an essential service, there is no question police, fire, and EMS services are essential, as is our refuse program, water and sewer services, and other governmental and infrastructure services. We determined immediately these services could not be delivered to our citizens remotely. We established procedures to continue to provide essential public services and to protect our outstanding city employees. We did this with limited visibility of the effects the pandemic would have on our finances. More about this later. I am proud to report we met the challenge. On behalf of all the citizens of Oakwood, we commend our outstanding City of Oakwood employees for their service to our community. To quote City Manager Norbert Klopsch in his year-end memorandum to our employees, "We have dealt with the challenges of the year each in our own way, yet we have also rallied together recognizing the work we do is essential to the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens and businesses we serve in our community, and that our work directly impacts the everyday lives of the people we serve. We will issue our 2020 annual report to every household soon. This report provides an abundance of information about our city and services we provide to our citizens. Accordingly, I will not repeat tonight the good news found in this report. Please read this interesting report at your leisure. We have outstanding diversity in our housing choices. Although most of our housing stock is over 75 years old, our homes and properties are better maintained than any other city around, and our home values prove it. In 2020, 88% of Oakwood home sales were higher than the county appraised average value. Oakwood property values increased by $39 million in the past year based on the 2020 Montgomery County reappraisal. This is not solely due to macroeconomic conditions. It is because of our good governance, excellent public schools, responsive city services, and community ambiance. Under the leadership of City Council, our outstanding city staff, and advice and counsel of our 35-member Budget Review Committee, we met the challenges to our financial stability. In April 2020, we were faced with a 10% to 20% revenue loss due to the pandemic. We immediately reduced capital and other expenditures until we had more visibility on our revenue streams. Thankfully, our income tax receipts rebounded in the second half of 2020. We are also thankful for revenue from the Federal CARES Act funding and Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation rebates. Accordingly, our revenues exceeded our expenses in 2020, and we anticipate this will also occur in 2021. As I begin my 18th year on Oakwood City Council and my 12th year as your mayor, I am also honored to serve with my fellow members of council. Steve Byington begins his 14th year as a member of Oakwood City Council and his 12th year as our vice mayor. Council members Rob Stevens and Ann Hilton begin their 12th year on City Council. Former council member Chris Epley served 7 years on City Council, and we congratulate him on his election to the 2nd District Court of Appeals. He will be an outstanding judge. We welcome Lee Turbin to complete Mr. Epley's unexpired term. Councilmember Turbin's previous Oakwood community service includes the Wright Memorial Library Advisory Council, the Oakwood Budget Review Committee, and the Oakwood Historical Society Board of Directors. She will be an outstanding member of City Council. This council, like those that preceded it, operates in a collegial style, and everyone believes in doing the right thing for the citizens of Oakwood. We listen to one another, no one has hidden agendas, and we believe in community service. When I joined council in 2003, it was my belief that Oakwood was well-governed, well-managed, and financially strong. I still hold this belief and will continue this tradition. With the help of Oakwood City Council, city staff, and the citizens of Oakwood, we will continue to be well-governed, well-managed, and financially strong. Thank you again for the opportunity to serve you. Next on our agenda, we have a couple council committee assignments. This is primarily due to the appointment of Councilmember Turbin at our last meeting. She is going to replace me as the alternate to the First Suburbs Consortium and will serve with Steve Byington, our primary person on the First Suburbs, and Norbert Klopsch. And then with her experience on our Historical Society, we've asked Lee to serve as the council liaison to the Oakwood Historical Society. Do we have a motion to approve those changes?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That's be so ordered. And then we have a few more citizen committee appointments tonight. We're not totally done, but we're getting really close. On our Budget Review Committee, Erica Ensley has agreed to serve, and she would be in Precinct C. On our Beautification Committee, Katie Dalrymple has agreed to serve another term. And on our Property Maintenance Committee, Kip Bohatchee, Larry Lamb, and Susan Herman have also agreed to serve an additional term. And I still have a few calls outstanding, and I hope to get those finally completed at our next meeting in April. Do we have a motion to approve these committee assignments?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. That will be so ordered. I think we are now ready for the visitor section of our program this evening, and we do have a special visitor tonight. Deborah Edwards from the Oakwood Historical Society is here to address council about a historic marker project. So, welcome, Deborah.
Thank you.
And I will, if you can speak into the microphone so the people at home can hear you, and we welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. As you said, my name is Deborah Edwards. I have been an Oakwood resident for almost 30 years. I think it's 29 and counting. I had 2 children who've gone through the Oakwood school system. And my youngest just recently referred to me as a micro-historian. And I kind of really liked that term, and I think it sums up what the Oakwood Historical Society is all about. But thank you again for having me. As Preservation Chair of the Oakwood Historical Society, I'm here tonight to share with you a project that we're very, very excited about, our Oakwood Historical Marker Program. This program is dedicated to commemorating sites of historical significance in the city of Oakwood. Whoops, messed this up already. Our goal is to share and make more widely accessible to the public Oakwood's rich and interesting history, and to help preserve this history for current and future generations. Our first 2 proposed markers would be for the Runnymede Playhouse and the town of Oakwood. Our first, which we hope to have installed this fall, would commemorate the Runnymede Playhouse for its significant contributions that took place there during World War II. The Playhouse, known during the war years as Unit 4 of the top secret Dayton Project, a branch of the Manhattan Project, was the site of the research and processing of polonium, which became the successful initiator in the atomic bombs, which helped end the war. Our second proposed historic marker would be for the town of Oakwood, and we hope to have this installed in early 2022, just about maybe a year from now, in commemoration of the 150th anniversary of Oakwood's first platting of a neighborhood. The original town of Oakwood was established by 4 men, House, Mitchell, Harmon, and Dixon, in 1872. And most of the houses in this nearby district date back to that date. This is an 1875 map which shows that original platting. And I apologize, you can't see it real well, but it's just basically this area that we're standing in right here. Other historical sites for marker consideration would include the Kramer Pleasure Gardens, 4 Mile Tavern, the first school and first library, Shantz Grove and Lookout Tower, the Woodlands Indian Mound, Shantz Historic District, the Long Romsport Homestead, and Hawthorne Hill. Obviously, we cannot attempt all these historical markers at once. This is a long-term and ongoing project, especially since it's entirely dependent on private donations. It's our goal to try to accomplish 1 marker per year, and if we do, we'll consider it a success. All the proposed markers would be of a similar bronze plaque design, but we would recommend several different types of installations depending upon the site. This is an example of a stone-mounted marker or a boulder. We think this type of marker would blend more aesthetically in certain surroundings, such as for the Runnymede Playhouse and the Woodland Indian Mound markers. This is an example of a freestanding marker, and this type of marker would allow ease of reading by pedestrians and maybe some car traffic where space permitted. We recommend this type of marker for such sites as the town of Oakwood, which we would like to place right outside here of the city building or in an adjacent location. This particular example here that you see is one of several found in the historic district of Springboro. And I just want to thank the folks at Springboro. They have spent a lot of time with us researching this because these markers go back to about 20 years ago, but they've been really helpful. We would also recommend some sidewalk embedded markers, and this would be where probably pedestrian clearance is limited, for such as like our 4 Mile Tavern. And we would also have a few small wall-mounted markers, maybe for like the Shantz Historic District or the first library, the first freestanding library, I should say, which is right across the street here at the Little Exchange. During our process of researching historical markers, we've been asked by several people about the consideration of the State of Ohio marker program. And I'm sure many of you recognize this marker, as there are about 150 currently in the greater Dayton area. And as I just listed a few of the examples of where these markers exist. We do have at least 2 sites here in Oakwood that would qualify for these markers, undoubtedly, and maybe more, obviously Hawthorne Hill and the Runnymede Playhouse. And these markers also come with a little bit of prestige, which is a nice feature, obviously. But in order to have continuity with all the markers that we would like to see someday in Oakwood, we are proposing that we have our own design, one that would be unique and special to our community. Back to our first proposed marker, the Runnymede Playhouse. This is a map drawn in 1947. You can see the date there. And it was drawn during the war years. So several of these outbuildings were not part of the original Talbot Playhouse. But it does show the original footprint of the Playhouse, which is noted as main building number 1, and the greenhouse that's in front of it, and the greenhouse that's up there at the top behind it, number 2. Those were the existing Talbot properties. Our proposed site for the historical marker would be in the city right-of-way where Dixon Avenue, now West Dixon, ends at Runnymede Road. To my knowledge, this is where the entrance to the original Playhouse was located. And this is what that site looks like today. So you can see there's quite a bit of vegetation, but the city does have the right-of-way there. It includes a stop sign and a utility pole. This is actually a 3-way stop. But there's a small clearing there that a boulder could fit into. If you went to this site today during the winter months, there's obviously the leaves aren't there, so you can clearly see the home right now. So we would have to take care that we didn't obstruct the home, but yet that the boulder would be visible to passerbys. And this last slide that I want to show you is what we propose our marker to look like. And this is as rendered by longtime Oakwood resident and artist Phyllis Niemeyer and her husband, graphic designer Kent Miller, who are sitting in the back over here. They donated their time, considerable time and talent, in designing this beautiful plaque, and I want to thank them and recognize them for that. I also want to mention that the copy on here, we did get a lot of people's input on this copy, and it is historically accurate as far as we know. We went to Linda Thomas. As you know, she wrote the book Polonium in the Playhouse. Her father, or her grandfather, was in charge of the Dayton project, and her grandmother was a Talbot, so she's really thorough. And we also went to Lee, I think his name was Bob Bowman, I'm pretty sure. He is a retired chemist at the Mound and a historian of the atomic bombs. So both of those two individuals have given us input into what this copy says. Now, when you look at this, what we're proposing is the oak leaf pattern at the top and the bottom would be consistent with all the markers that we do. And you can see it also incorporates both the Oakwood Historical Society and the City of Oakwood, with your approval, obviously. Each individual plaque would also incorporate a design illustrating that particular site. In this case, a line drawing of the playhouse, and then a copy explaining that particular site. It's our hope that the City of Oakwood will join us in a joint collaboration of this project. We've already received a nice sizable donation from Dan Turbin, and we hope to have more donations come in soon. So dependent upon any assistance that the city can give us in installation and permits would really put us on our way to getting this program in the works. We're hoping that you'll agree that this is a very worthwhile and positive program, and we think that it would be great for the community of Oakwood. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Deborah?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Deborah, thank you for your presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well done, thank you. So just to clarify a couple things, each plaque, the plan is they'd all look like this, but can I assume based on the different style, they could be larger or smaller, right?
That's correct. Like
So-
the one for the first library would probably be pretty
And
small.
the wall plaque, I mean, you're not going to try to make them all the same size.
No,
Because everything's going to be, so the plaque itself will be different value along with whether it's a stand or if it's on a wall, things like that. So each year a price will be different. Do you have any idea, I mean, have you done the pricing of these to know?
well, we have,
approximately
and
what
it's
they
kind of it's still going up and down. We're trying to bring down the cost that we've gotten so far. We think that this will probably be one of our more expensive plaques for the Runnymede. We hope to actually use the same size and shape for this for the town of Oakwood, so that one would come down because the leaf, all the leaf graphics would already probably be made. But we're looking at probably close to $3,000 for the plaque.
That's just for the plaque? Okay.
We're hoping to get that down.
Yeah, but
We've met with Dayton Stencil, we've met, and I've gotten quotes from quite a few. And we are trying to simplify the design a little bit, to make it just two-dimensional, which I think will bring the cost down greatly. So we're working on that.
And my final question, you listed off some things. Is that a set list of, I think you might have said 12, or I mean, you could keep going, I'm assuming, right?
We could, and that's what I said. This is like an ongoing project. And these are just some of the locations that, that we thought off the top of our head. But what we really want to look at is doing the Runnymede. We think that's one of the most important ones, and we want to get that one in place. And we think the town of Oakwood, with the 150th anniversary for next year, is a great. After that, the Oakwood Historical Society is going to consider them on a year-to-year basis, so it could change. And some of these might be dependent, like I'm hoping maybe the Dayton Country Club would get behind the Kramer Pleasure Gardens, so some of them might depend on the funding that we have available too. And like the first library, that should be a very inexpensive marker to do. So we'll take it one step at a time. We'll get one completed and then decide on the next.
Other questions for Deborah?
Thank you.
Yeah, Deborah,
I-
great job. This is
Thank you.
This is great. I have a question. Is Dayton history involved in this? So, for example, I'm looking at Hawthorne Hill.
Yes, and that's why it's at the bottom of my list, to be quite honest with you. It's not because it's not the least important, which it certainly is not. And we have talked to Alex Hexman at the Dayton History about this, and obviously that falls under their domain, and we would have to be work with them if we did. I asked them actually why they didn't have a marker at Hawthorne Hill already, especially the state of Ohio marker. And they actually said they were trying to be a little low-key because, you know, I guess that some of the neighbors there are kind of...
The neighbors.
So,
Which you are one.
so that has been a consideration of theirs. But I think after we get a few of these installed, we'll go back and work with Dayton history on Hawthorne Hill, obviously.
Well, yeah, and I was wondering if some of your good research might be helpful to them. You know, sometimes they have these specialty displays that might be pretty cool.
Right, yes.
You know, as you go along.
Yes, I think we have a good relationship with them.
Yeah,
So I think-
excellent.
Yes,
Well, thanks.
okay. Any other questions?
Could I also thank Deborah? It was a great presentation,
Thank
but
you.
I also wanted to recognize Deborah for her initiative. She came to the Historical Society, gosh, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago.
No, not
with
that long.
This concept. And of course, we unanimously loved it. And so she has been running with it. And so I just wanted to recognize her for that. And she mentioned Phyllis Niemeyer Miller, the artist, who is in the audience. So I wanted to point Phyllis out to you all as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I have one question.
Yes.
Where was 4 Mile Tavern?
It was basically where, what's the name of the restaurant there at Peach Orchard and Far Hills. There's a really good picture of it in the Far Hills book.
Okay, I have that book at home.
And it's where Flyboys, kind of where Flyboys are.
all right.
It's hard to know exactly, but 2 of our historians have said it's right in that location.
All right, well, thank you. That's news to me.
Bill.
I'm surprised you didn't ask about the Indian
Oh,
mound.
man.
Most people ask about the Indian mound.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that wishes to address council at this time? If so, you can come down to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and we would welcome you. The artists in residence don't want to say anything. Okay, well, they're shaking their heads, so thank you very much. That will then conclude the visitor portion of our meeting, and we now will go to legislation, and Vice Mayor Byington has an ordinance.
Yes, Your Honor, this is an ordinance to amend Section 1 of the 2021 Original Appropriation Ordinance Number 4925 and any existing supplements thereto to provide for the appropriation of an additional amount of $225,000 to be expended from the Capital Improvement Fund in connection with the 2021 Asphalt Pavement Program. This is a supplemental appropriation ordinance available for this year's asphalt pavement program. The city includes funding in the budget every year for a variety of capital improvement projects, including maintenance and repair of our streets. Last year was a bit different due to the COVID-19 pandemic. When we worked through the budgetary process last year for 2021, Oakwood, like many cities, anticipated an unknown drop in year-end tax revenues due to the effects of the pandemic. Accordingly, we made the decision to scale back the scope of several capital improvement projects scheduled for 2021. As it turns out, the city ended 2020 in better financial condition than expected. Quarterly tax estimates paid in 2021 for 2021 indicate that our tax revenues have not been impacted to the degree we initially projected. We may still see a drop as 2020 tax returns start coming in, but not as severely as anticipated. As a result, the city manager has recommended changing the scope of the 2021 asphalt pavement program back to what was originally planned before the downscaling of capital improvement projects. This will allow the city to make all necessary and appropriate repairs in a timely fashion. This year's budget appropriation included $200,000 for the 2021 asphalt pavement program. This supplemental appropriation will make an additional $225,000 available for a total project cost of $425,000, allowing us to restore the original scope of the 2021 asphalt pavement program. Under Section 3.04 of the City Charter, this ordinance will take effect upon its passage, and I move that council waive the second reading and adopt this ordinance actually this evening.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Are there any questions or comments for Vice Mayor Byington? Hearing none, Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton,
Yes.
Mrs. Turbin.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Stevens has a resolution followed by an ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. A resolution declaring the necessity of improving certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio by lighting the same with electricity. This is an annual resolution that is the first step of our 2022 street lighting program. We are required by law to pass several pieces of legislation to provide street lighting each year. The first is this resolution declaring the necessity of street lighting throughout the city. I will also be introducing as a first reading tonight the second piece, the ordinance to proceed for the project, but will not vote on that ordinance until our April meeting. The third piece of legislation, an ordinance to levy assessments for certain street light costs, will be introduced as a first reading at our April meeting, followed by a final assessment ordinance to be introduced in July. I move the council adopt this resolution.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments for Councilmember Stevens? Hearing none, Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton,
Yes.
Mrs. Turbin.
Yes.
Right, and so you have an ordinance now.
Yes, an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio by lighting the same with electricity. This is an annual ordinance that is the second step of our 2022 street lighting program. It is the ordinance that authorizes the city to proceed with the actual project. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
Thank you, and I believe you have one more ordinance?
Yes, an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction or reconstruction of sidewalks and appurtenances thereto in the city of Oakwood, Ohio. This ordinance is the third piece of legislation for last year's sidewalk repair project, authorizing the assessment of the sidewalk repair costs that have not already been paid directly by affected homeowners. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
Thank you. So we will look forward to that, your second reading next month. It is now, that's the end of our legislation for this evening, and we do have a staff report from our Directors of Personnel and Properties, Jennifer Wilder. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. Just real quick, some of the things that I'll be touching on tonight. In the Properties Department, a zoning and property maintenance update, an update on our pre-sale and rental inspection program, upcoming VECTREN project for 2021, a quick update on development and construction here in Oakwood, and business update in our business district. And then I'll switch to some updates in our personnel department and a quick review of our Oakwood website. So first, the zoning department exists primarily to protect Oakwood residents. For most people, the biggest investment that they'll make in their lifetime is the purchase of their home. And enforcing the zoning and property maintenance codes of the city of Oakwood, we work to protect that property value. We do that by reviewing and analyzing land use, different zoning proposals and requests, and administering permits for improvements. The zoning department did not slow down in 2020 and issued 351 permits. And this slide shows just a comparison to previous years. Despite the pandemic, zoning department stayed busy, and this represents over $14 million reinvested into the community. The pandemic and the resulting work-from-home practices afforded many residents an opportunity to work on home improvement projects, as reflected in our numbers. The zoning department also administers the pre-sale and rental inspection program. This program was established in 1968 to ensure properties are code compliant at time of sale or brought into compliance shortly thereafter. And it's especially important to communities like Oakwood with an aging housing stock, further protecting those property values and making sure homes are maintained throughout the transfer of property. Information on our pre-sale and rental inspection program and how to comply is available on the city's website in several locations. The pandemic certainly did not slow down the real estate market in Oakwood. Pre-sale and rental inspections increased to 458 in 2020. During the March through June shutdown, inspections were modified and consisted only of outside evaluations, but we did return to full interior inspections in June. Typically here I would update you on the number of property maintenance letters that we sent out in a year, but the pandemic brought about a few changes. We we ended up waiving the annual citywide inspection and instead only pursued significant violations of our property maintenance code in 2020. Instead, some of our resources were directed to assisting businesses with recovery from government-mandated shutdowns and social distancing requirements due to the pandemic. Specifically, we suspended the prosecution of our temporary sign code in our business districts, which allowed businesses to have an additional sign to communicate their open status to customers and passersby. And additionally, we created a temporary outdoor seating permit process to help restaurants with limited indoor seating options due to social distancing requirements. So this spring, city staff will return to their annual citywide automobile tour, which will identify violations of our property maintenance code. The process is property owners will be contacted by letter advising them of the violation, and we do give a reasonable date to complete the repairs. The things that we see most often on this tour are things like dead trees or peeling paint. And there are articles in both our upcoming annual report and the Oakwood Scene regarding the specific areas of compliance that we review. In 2021, VECTREN will continue their multi-year infrastructure replacement project in Oakwood, replacing underground gas distribution pipes and home service lines in Oakwood neighborhoods, and those will be identified on the following two slides. In all work areas, VECTREN is installing new polyethylene pipes in place of old steel and cast iron pipes, and are moving indoor gas meters to outside wall locations. Oakwood residents that are personally affected by the work will receive detailed information from VECTREN, and the pipeline project maps on the next slide are also available on our website under Engineering and Public Work Projects, or at VECTREN's website on their gas system maps. So Project A area work includes Ridgeway Road from Park Road to the southern border, Fair Forest Circle, Oak Knoll from Ridgeway West to Deep Hollow Lane and Deep Hollow Lane. And Project B includes work on Triangle and Orchard, on Schroyer between Triangle and Orchard, and also includes work on the alleys in the shaded area. This is probably the last year for my slide on the Element Oakwood update. Approved by council in 2017, Element Oakwood, located at Old River Trail across from the Old River Sports Complex, is an 84-unit condominium community which has a variety of sizes ranging from 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms with a den. Residents began moving into the development in January of 2020, and I'm pleased to say that the pandemic did not slow that down either, and property managers report that the condos are 96% leased as of today. A quick update on Point Oakwood construction. Construction on this development began in 2009. There is still one house under construction, and that's the last house on the west side of Point Oakwood Way. There are 2 remaining lots. Those are on Ledges Trail and face West Shantz, and at this time, no permits have been issued on either of those lots. Since my last update to council in March of 2020, several businesses have opened their doors in Oakwood. The Spicy Olive is located at 2510 Far Hills and is a shop which includes a tasting emporium for fresh olive oils and vinegars. Studio 77 Home Design is located at 2405 Far Hills Avenue and offers staging, styling, and home decor shopping in their Oakwood retail space. Indie West Studios at 2400 Far Hills Avenue features a photography loft, a retail boutique, and wellness center, a little something for everyone. And OI Medical Aesthetics is located at 2523 Far Hills and is a med spa providing medical grade products and aesthetic services. Information and links to their websites are available on our website. The next part of my update is a report on the personnel side of things, and if you're sensing a theme here, it's a little more that not everything slowed down during the pandemic. I'll touch on HR responsibilities during the pandemic, a few city staff updates, retirements and new hires, and what we're currently recruiting for. So while other businesses were figuring out how to close down or exploring how to operate remotely, here at the city, we were scrambling to figure out how to stay open and how to stay open safely for our staff while continuing to provide the services upon which our residents rely. Obviously, the city provides needs essential to life, like water, law enforcement, safety services, and emergency medical treatment, but also quality of life services like trash collection, street maintenance, outdoor recreation, and zoning services. And these things require people. And most jobs, most city jobs, are not able to be performed remotely, but require in-person attendance. So as the CDC guidance and health department directives evolved, sometimes what seemed like on a daily basis, department heads and the city manager met frequently to find ways to continue operations while keeping both our staff and our residents safe. What now, looking back, seems like a smooth year-long transition to masks and barriers and whatnot, at the time felt complicated and awkward. It started with policies to minimize contact and then evolved into policies for self-care checks before coming to work, and then policies for how to and when to return to work after illness. And we tried to react as quickly as possible and put temporary leave policies in place so that employees could take care of themselves and their families if they were affected by COVID. Our city law director has tirelessly kept up with interpreting the guidelines for the past year and continues to work with individual departments to help them modify their procedures so the departments can continue to bring services to our residents safely. While we closed the building to the public during the shutdown period of the pandemic, we still tried to find ways to meet the needs of residents. Some of that involves some physical changes to our facilities. Examples include first just adding the drop box here at 30 Park Avenue so residents could continue their good old-fashioned way of bringing paper to the city. Things like permits and tax returns and water payments all continue to come in, and we continue to process those during the shutdown. Also, during the shutdown, we had barriers installed so at all of our public-facing entry desks to protect our staff and the public so that we were ready to reopen when we were allowed to in June. We made changes to cleaning schedules, and employees have pitched in and helped sanitize frequently used areas and high-touch surfaces. We transitioned most public and employee restroom faucets to touchless water faucets. We closed down some smaller meeting areas and rearranged larger areas like these so that we could accommodate social distancing and have meetings in person when needed. Internally, we also adjusted procedures and managed by phone or virtual meetings as much as possible. And I don't mean to drone on about COVID procedures. I know every business had to adjust, no doubt. But I want to finish by saying that looking back, Oakwood employees have delivered tremendous customer service during the pandemic. They've continued to find ways to do their job, even if it's in a modified version, to allow us to continue to serve the community. Oakwood staff has shown up relentlessly from the start of the pandemic and never wavered, whether it was deciding to open the pool for the season and all of those details that were involved, or finding a way to meet with property owners so they could continue and carry out their home improvement projects. Oakwood staff has really shown up, and I'm very proud to be a part of that team. In 2020, we quietly celebrated the careers of several longtime employees. Refuse Foreman Ken Perkins retired after 30 years of service to our community. Lieutenant Jeff Yount in our Public Safety Department retired after 31 years of service to our community. Sean Huffman, a motor equipment operator, also known as the street sweeper guy, retired after 31 years of service. Gary Dersch, our water plant superintendent, retired after 14 years of service here to Oakwood, which was after another 30 years serving other communities in their water departments. And dispatcher Sherry Musius retired after serving our community for 22 years. Retirements brought about openings for new staff members, and we happily welcome to our Oakwood team. Continuing to interview and recruit during the pandemic was definitely a challenge, but we welcomed Darren Witherspoon, a general service worker in our Leisure Services Department, Jonathan Wissinger, a general service worker in our Refuse Division, Sarah Stimson Murphy, a new dispatcher in our Public Safety Services, Chris Branscombe, our new water plant technician in our Water Department, and Tristan Hazlett, a general service worker in our Refuse Division. Current recruitment process, we are in the heat of recruiting for seasonal positions. We are currently looking for day camp counselors, Boulevard and Smith Gardens maintenance, public works seasonal laborers, pool concessions, and lifeguards. Descriptions and wage information is available on our website, and applications are available on our website as well. We encourage folks to apply soon for first consideration because we do fill those as we go. So next, just an update on our City of Oakwood website. Feels like yesterday, Lori and I were standing here telling you the news that we were ready to reveal our brand new website. It's been almost 2 years. In April of 2019, we partnered with Proud City to do a complete overhaul of our city website, which was originally designed in 1998 and updated in 2007. We created the website in just 90 days. and the new website was released to the public in June of 2019. During that 90-day sprint, Lori and I worked closely with city staff to create a website to provide a better way for residents, businesses, and visitors to access city news, announcements, and information online in a manner that wasn't available on our old website. With continued technological advancements, the new website has a mobile-friendly interface that adapts to all devices. And I can't believe that it started 2 years ago. It's amazing to see how much our content has grown daily.
People can access our website by going to oakwoodohio.gov. That will take them to our homepage, which offers a tremendous amount of information in a variety of ways. For example, when you get to our homepage, you can actually scroll down through the information. There are quick links in the upper right-hand corner or the prominent search box in the middle of the screen there. We also have the ability to use an alert bar, which you can see on what you're looking at right now in the yellow area. We can provide timely, important information on each screen on our website, such as promoting our website or our city council meeting where people can watch live. On the upper bar in the right corner there in the blue bar, people can click on community where they can gather information about Oakwood, mainly general information that's helpful for visitors, not necessarily residential information. The residential information would be located under the department pages, where it provides a list of comprehensive services that we offer. In addition to that, we also have news and announcements, meetings and events, as well as contact information. So definitely stay tuned in the coming days under our news and announcement, because Mayor Duncan will have his State of the City address available there so people can view it. We also have FAQs, or what we call Get Answers, and this is what our residents mainly ask about. So we've compiled them together, and as of right now, the most current question that we're getting is, how do I apply for a permit? So people can go under the Get Answers and get some information, quick information on how to apply for a permit, and then link out to more detailed information if needed. Did you also know that you could make a payment or maybe report a street light being out? On our website, you do have the ability to make payments for different services that we provide, whether it be for paying for a permit, paying your water bill. And the report an issue, let's say you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you see the street light being out. You can bring up your phone, you can go ahead and fill out the information where you see the street light being out. That generates a notification to our Public Works Center. We go out and fix the street light. So if you don't want to pick up the phone, definitely take advantage of the different features and services that we have available. But if you do want to pick up the phone, don't forget that we have the contacts if you need to know where to call.
One of the most exciting features of our new website was the ability to make changes quickly and to do it easily. Using website analytics like these, Lori determines the content of our front page. She monitors hot topics and adjusts the front page weekly, sometimes even daily. Would you believe that over the past year, there have been over 124,000 browsing sessions on our website, 86,000 users. This in a town of 9,200 people. As Lori mentioned, this month, the most common frequently asked questions are, how do I apply for a zoning permit and how do I pay for my property taxes? Current popular searches in our search bar include OCC program information, income tax information and forms, our employment application and recruitment announcement, and as always, trash and recycling information. Almost half of our visitors access the website from a mobile device or tablet, so keeping those hot topics front and center and easy to find remains our goal. Proud City's website and social media recently featured Oakwood staff and shared the experiences and the journey that brought about our new website designed to better serve our residents. Truly, Lori has performed a majority of the updates. She is dedicated to keeping our message current and does so without fail. all we have for you tonight. Would you like that one?
I think that we need co-mayors in the city of Oakwood, and I'm looking at our new co-mayors. You guys have done a great job. I mean, you know, again, I talked a little bit about in our State of the City, but it didn't do justice everything you guys had to deal with. While a lot of cities, when this thing first happened, they're taping big red X's so you can stand 6 feet apart, you know, it was you, I think, had the idea, let's put little tiny acorns every 6 feet apart. And that was just a cool touch, you know?
It was Cindy.
It was Cindy?
Cindy's idea.
Cindy, the
Yes.
accountant did that?
Yes.
Well, how about that?
She's
That's
creative.
great. But, I mean, those kinds of creative things that we did, you know, in all departments, I think just tell the tale of just the yeoman's work that everybody in this city did, all of our employees. And so we appreciate it very much. And co-mayors, I like the idea. So, anybody else have questions for Jennifer?
Yes, I do. So the frequently asked questions, does a person go in and sort of normalize, you know, everybody asks them differently, or does somebody look at them regularly, or
They're
are they always the same?
Well, no, we actually go and evaluate the data, like Jennifer said, the Google Analytics, we go out and see
Okay.
what people are searching on. And if all of a sudden a huge uptick in a certain area, then we're going to make that more prominent so people have an easier way to find it, like right now income tax, or how do you pay your property taxes, or if you have questions on property valuation, those type of things. A lot of them are very timely. And some you can predict based on the time of the year.
Yeah.
Others, it just, you know, whatever we find in the data we collect. But in the Get Answers, we actually have different, what I'll call buckets of areas. So there's an area for permitting. There's an area for how do I pay my bill? You know, so you can really break it down based on what you're looking for. And then, so if you know you have questions on zoning and permitting, we have multiple questions listed under each section or each subject item that you can choose from. But we are always very open to any feedback, any ideas, any suggestions at any time. So we definitely encourage that.
That's excellent. Well, today, I think it read my mind. I didn't even have to ask the question. I went, and it took me to the vaccine. You have the vaccine information. So I was some sort of hook into the county, or I don't know, but that was very, very helpful.
Well, good.
It knew.
It's good to hear. Mm-hmm. Great.
Okay, other questions?
I have a question for Jennifer.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, guys. Excellent. I use it all the time. Jennifer, you mentioned the outdoor seating permit process.
Yes.
Does that go on forever, or does that have an endpoint? And
It ends when the emergency status of the pandemic ends.
okay. And then what do we do if somebody wants an outdoor permit?
We would have to look at our zoning code to see
Okay.
that, like, for example, in the area near Central Perk, they were able to establish an area without needing a permit due
Oh,
to some of
God.
the space there and the small size. For a larger area that originally we were considering, some of the restaurants were considering even possibly using a parking lot with a tent. So we hurried to create that program, and then they were able to quickly bring their restaurant into compliance by establishing barriers and every other table. So they ended up not pursuing it. It's still there and available through the pandemic. For future use of outdoor seating, it probably would require a look at the zoning code, which does not currently permit outdoor seating.
Got it. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
It is a very user-friendly website. I will attest to that, so thank you. All right, so our staff report is over. It's now time for our city manager report.
This brief tonight. I appreciate the approval of the supplemental appropriation for the street work. We took open bids last week, and as is typical, we received 2 bids from the John R. Jurgensen and Barrett Paving, and Jurgensen was the low bid, and so we'll be working on contracting with them and get that project going. It'll probably take place again sometime between June and August, as is typical here in Oakwood. Shout out to our Public Works Department for putting in a lot of hours during the big snow event, a couple weeks' time there. Many hours overtime overnight. We have a 16-hour limit on continuous work, and a few folks went up to that limit, and we had to send them home, obviously for safety reasons. But I'm proud to say that we basically completed the task. Because we haven't had a lengthy snow event like that in quite some time, we're a little bit rusty in some areas, but Doug Spittler is doing a great after-action review with the foreman, and I'm not hoping that we'll have another such event, but we'll be ready the next time it may happen. You mentioned the 2020 annual report, Mayor, and your State of the City. We are putting the final touches to that now, and it should be delivered to all properties in Oakwood within the next few weeks, probably by the latter part of March or maybe early April. And again, that's full of tons of detailed information about the city. Carol Collins and her staff are now actively working on preparing our parks. We officially opened them in April, so lots going on. I hope the weather stays nice so we can get all that going. And we're also well underway in planning for the summer swim season at Gardner Pool, and we're proceeding with the planning right now to operate the pool in generally the same fashion that we did last year. If things change dramatically and improve dramatically with the coronavirus, well, we can always revert back to some less structured operation. But for the time being, we're planning to operate like we did last year, and as we've talked a couple times in the past, that really worked well. And again, kudos to Carol and to Karen Early, who directly oversees the pool on a regular basis, for all their work last year. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions or comments for our city manager? All right, then it's time for council comments. Councilmember Turbin.
How'd you know I was going to comment? Well, this will be brief. I really just wanted to thank the city for your very, very warm welcome, especially our city manager, Norb Klopsch, and Lori Stasel, our clerk of council, for arranging my orientation, which has been ongoing, and I have been tutored and toured and welcomed, and it's been a great experience. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Hilton.
No comments, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
No comments this evening.
Vice Mayor Byington.
No comment, sir.
All right, I just have two. 45 years ago, we created a corporation called the Oakwood Community Improvement Corporation. This corporation was incorporated when Jimmy Carter was president, and it has been inactive for 45 years. It has never had the first accounting transaction. So occasionally we do have to deal with bureaucrats here, and we had a few come in from the Auditor of State's office, and they wanted to audit our Community Improvement Corporation. We said there's nothing to audit because we have been inactive for 45 years. In the course of their review, they determined that we did not have a official public records policy for our Community Improvement Corporation. We disputed that because we said the people that run the city are the same people that run our inactive Community Improvement Corporation, and we have a public records document which we follow to the letter for the city of Oakwood. However, the bureaucrats concluded that this was a significant accounting and something else. It was a significant compliance and accounting matter. It is impossible for a corporation that's 45 years old and does not have the first transaction to have anything about it to be significant. I wrote a note to the auditors, and I copied our Auditor of State. I asked them to review this again. As of March 1st, 2021, we have heard nothing from them. I would suggest that the Auditor of State spend a little more time trying to figure out why we have this massive unemployment fraud in the state of Ohio, instead of looking for a missing piece of paper for a corporation that has been inactive for 45 years. And then my final comment, a little more positive. I received my first vaccine shot on Saturday. Went through the Kettering website. It was very seamless. I got there at 10:08 for my 10:10 appointment. By 10:15, the vaccine was in my arm. I then had to sit in their waiting area for 15 minutes and watch Kettering Hospital commercials, and I was back home by 10:45. So I go back in about 15 to 20 more days, and I would encourage everyone out there. I think as of today, DeWine is opening it up to people age 60 and over. So if you can get a vaccine, go do it. It's easy as pie, and don't worry about whether it's Moderna or Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson, and get your hands on it as fast as you can. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 5, 2021. We are adjourned.